This is a Serengetian audio chapter sample of The Sea Captain's Wife, part of the Sterley's of Oakland Park series of books, copyright 2010 by Serengetian. For more, www.serengetian.wordpress.com. Chapter 1. Sir Thomas drew the spyglass away from his face and closed it. 100 sea miles from Dover. The early morning mist dampened his sea cloak. His Majesty's ship of war Romulus continued towards England. Her great expanse of sail filled with wind, while on the quarterdeck Sir Thomas, master and commander of the vessel, brooded. It was late October 1805, and Sir Thomas, like the rest of the men who had served under Lord Nelson, felt a deep pain, for the hero of the Nile and 100 other sea battles lay dead, preserved in a brandy barrel en route to England. Ahead of HMS Romulus, Sir Thomas could just make out the form of HMS Victory, Nelson's last command, plying through the cold ocean, carrying the mortal remains of the great Sea Lord home to an England which had yet to learn of the death of the hero fallen at Cape Trafalgar's battle. Sir Thomas had always looked to Nelson for guidance, for although he was older than Nelson, he knew that the young admiral had the strength and the knowledge to bring home a victory when pressed to do so. It was not that Sir Thomas had known the man intimately, in fact they had seldom spoken man to man. But Nelson had a way of making each man in the fleet believe and feel that he was on an intimate basis with him. For Nelson had a way of showing that he cared for those under his command. Indeed, he could have written a textbook on the art of naval warfare. For it was Nelson's way to drill the ship's crews in gunnery until he was satisfied. It took many hours of sweating, groaning and cursing before Nelson was happy with the gunnery practice. This example other captains had put into practice, and soon the tide of the war began to turn in England's favour. For a moment Sir Thomas cast his mind back to the meeting on board Victory, only a few short hours before Cape Trafalgar's battle. Nelson had known how to inspire men to greatness, and he had done just so. On this occasion he addressed his commanders. At the end of the meeting, the Sea Lord had asked Sir Thomas to remain for a moment after other officers had left. "Well, Sir Thomas, we are to face old Boney's fleet once again. Will you drink a toast to our success?" asked Nelson, as he decanted a glass of brandy from a bottle. "Indeed, may the enemy fail in all their attempts, and pray God that he keep us and preserve you, for the fleet needs you right now," replied Sir Thomas. "Indeed, a happy sentiment. I hope that we will carry all before us, and there will be a vast amount of prize money to be had," replied Nelson. "To a safe harbour and a treasure trove of prize money," remarked Sir Thomas, as he lifted the glass high to the light. Now Sir Thomas smiled at the memory how happy they had been when they had parted company. For the last time Lord Nelson had taken his hand and held it for a lingering moment, the great Sea Lord and the captain, old friends, exchanging a brief moment of brotherhood. Nelson was good at that. Now he lay dead, never more to inspire men, but his deeds and the memory of the man would live long in the service which he was so proud of. Sir Thomas shivered for a moment in the cold pre-dawn damp ahead. He could just make out the tall sails of Victory as they dipped and rose with the swell of the ocean in the dark mist. Below he could hear the men getting ready for the next watch. The ship's mate had been down to rouse them up for the watch. James Braithwaite, the young midshipman who had performed so bravely at the last battle, approached, knuckled his forehead and said, "Lieutenant James presents his compliments, asked if he could ask the galley to prepare an early breakfast for you." "Thank you, Mr. Braithwaite. My compliments to Lieutenant James, and yes, I will go down to my cabin directly," said Sir Thomas. The young officer turned and left the quarterdeck. In the meantime, Sir Thomas returned to his music. It saddened him that the cost of winning the battle had cost England so dearly. He thought for a moment of Lady Nelson, and then of Lady Hamilton, the great Sea Lord's mistress. How would this loss affect him? Then he thought of every home in England where a father, a son, a husband, a brother had been lost to Boney's war. How different it would have been if the war had not been so long fought and hard fought. Boys snatched from the schoolyards, farmers and labourers from their toil, to fight in the far-off corners of Europe. How he hated war. Nevertheless, what could England do? For you had to surrender to the Corsican would have meant the end of England, and that would have and what would have become of all those generations who had worked so hard to build England's might? Under the French foot of the Emperor, what would have been a lot of men like Sir Thomas? No, England had to fight, and at last the war was won. Sir Thomas was a man of mild disposition, but the very thought of England under French domination made his blood boil. For in England under the foot of France would not be England, for England was for Englishmen. His mind turned to his wife and children. Of course he would give all to protect his family. And if he came to die in the service of the nation, then so be it. He was an Englishman, and that was Englishmen did. They did their duty to God and country. Meanwhile, in the far corner of Surrey, Lady Anne Sterley stirred in her bed. It seemed to her that her husband must be near, for she had dreamt he was in his way home. This concludes the first chapter of The Sea Captain's Wife. If you enjoyed this book, please support the author by purchasing a copy from www.sarahjessian.wordpress.com. Thank you.